People thought day and night about this question: who am I? Hi, it's Sandy Wiley. Today we're going to do a little more Carl Jung, finding your true self. How many people have thought about that question? Who am I? Who am I really behind closed doors when no one's looking, when no one's watching, when no one's listening, when no one's paying attention? The tough part is no one can tell you that answer right away. What is tougher is to accept the fact that an individual could live 30 or 40 years and still contemplate that same question. You are one person today, and you can be a new person tomorrow. But the real question is, what kind of person are you at your very core? People change their habits frequently. I can like painting one day and stitching the next. But what kind of morals do you carry at your very center? You can feel like you're in the back seat of your life, like someone else is driving decisions for you. And even though you want to intervene, you don't know how. This is an existing psychological problem to which Carl Jung has a lot to say. Now let me just say something about myself. I've always felt like in the back seat, not having any control of my life. And someone else has always been in the driver's seat until the last maybe couple of years, since I've been doing my YouTube, publishing all my psychological books on Amazon, taking Harvard psychologists to the board, having my own newsletter on LinkedIn, and writing about all this stuff and naming names, putting names out there, and just, educating people on what I was naive, and ignorant about. So, also seeing myself as an artist, knowing I'm not a 9-to-5 conventional woman. I'm not like a conventional wife who works 9-to-5, comes home, cooks the dinner. That's not who I am at all. But like that kind of box I was in most of my life. Okay, let's go on and talk about Carl Jung. We know he's a Swiss psychiatrist. There's a difference between psychologist and psychiatrist. They both do therapy. But a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, meaning they can write prescriptions for you. So they can prescribe you medication. Whereas a psychologist is not a medical doctor. He's not an MD. So he cannot prescribe any medication at all. You have to go to a psychiatrist for that. So, psychiatrists study the unconscious mind, looking at psychology from more an analytical point of view. According to him, every person has a unique personality that is shaped by the experiences they have in their life. That makes sense, right? This personality is also affected by their interactions from the outside world and also their unconscious thoughts. However, Jung also believed that other than a self-personality, there's also a collective unconscious that threads all humans. The key to find one's true self is to explore both your individual and your collective unconscious. Jung's theory tells you to focus on your unconscious mind because that is where your unfiltered thoughts collect. Your personal unconscious is a home to repressed memories. I have repressed memories. Your experience that you had in your life and interactions with the world. On the other hand, your collective unconscious is a deeper psyche shared by other humans. To simplify, it is the unconscious that is passed down from ancestors. And then we get into the archetypes, right? Now that you have that backdrop, let me tell you how to find your true self. For this, you need to know one last term. That's the archetypes, and I did all the archetypes. I did all 12 archetypes. The persona, he goes on to say, it's a Latin word for mask. It represents how we act around other people, how we shield our emotions. Now, every one of us wears that mask. Everyone. There's only very few people we don't wear that mask with. Very, very few. Let me name the very few people. My husband and my children. That's it. That's it. Before my husband and my children, there were Dr. Richard Geist, Dr. James Barbaria. Only those two. And I've been to like well over 20 shrinks. But only those two did I not wear the mask. With friends, let's get into friends. I can honestly say looking back, there was only one friend I didn't wear the mask with, and that was Julia, the one I slapped, because I've never let my rage come out with any other friend that I can remember. She was the only one. So I dropped the mask with her. So, and aside from my parents, that's it. No other friends, no other psychologists, no other anyone have I ever dropped the mask with. Only my best friend Julia from college, Dr. Richard Geist, psychologist, Dr. James Barbaria, psychologist who I had the 2-year affair with, my husband, and my 2 children. That's it. There has been nobody else that I have completely dropped that mask with. So it's very few people. If you have like 1 or 2 people in your life that you can actually be 100% yourself, count yourself lucky. That you can be totally raw and honest with. All right. The shadow. The shadow is an archetype that consists of the sex and life instincts. It exists as part of the unconscious mind and is composed of repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires. Remember, it's everything that we don't like about us, like the dark side. The parts that we don't like about ourselves. Like, what would I say would be mine is, rage, immorals. I've been immoral. Well, I've had affairs. I've done pornography. I've been violent. I used to steal. Okay, I'm being right up front honest with you. Those are my shadow parts. Those parts I'm not proud of. I have very high anxiety. I'm antisocial. I've always been antisocial. I think it comes from my childhood where I grew up in a topsy-turvy house with having a mother who beat me up, who was emotionally and physically and mentally and verbally and everything abusive, a father who was a schizophrenic who was in and out of mental hospitals and left me when I was a child. So I shut myself off I walled myself off. I was antisocial. I didn't really socialize with, I had friends. But like I said, who really knew me? Julia. Only one girlfriend really knew me. The one I slapped because, look at my best friend Holly of 12 years, right? I wouldn't even show her I was like the least bit upset with her, let alone slap her. She didn't even know I was upset with her, okay? So, see the difference? Julia saw my violence, my rage, my psychoses. She was the only friend that did. None of the other ones ever did. All right, the Animus. I did a whole video on this. Anima is a feminine image in the male psyche, and the Animus is a male image in the female psyche. This represents the true self, rather than the image we represent to others, and serves as a source of communication with the collective unconscious. Jung believed that psychological changes as well as social influences contributed to the development of sex roles. These archetypical images are based upon both what is found in the collective and personal unconscious. Okay, so we may get notions about women from personal experience with wives, girlfriends, sisters, and mothers contribute to more personal images of women. You know, like the image of like in the 50s, the woman had the apron on. She didn't work. She stayed in the house. She baked and cooked all day. You know, she helped the children with their homework. You know, that, typical female image. While the man went out, worked all day, came home, read the paper, see what I mean? Watched the ball games. The women didn't like sports. The men put on the ball games. See what I'm saying? So that's passed on, from watching how our mothers and our fathers, our ancestors, how we put them into roles. Like, oh, the woman does this, the man does this. This is from watching as a child, our mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents, that we get this. The self. This is an archetype that represents the unified unconscious and conscious of an individual. Jung often represents the self as a circle, square, or a mandala. Creating the self occurs through a process known as individuation, in which the various aspects of personality are integrated. Jung believed that disharmony between the unconscious and the conscious mind could lead to psychological problems. Isn't this what's called cognitive difference? What that means is, if you believe something but your mind believes you're one way, but you're actually going against what you believe. For instance, I'll give you an example of cognitive difference. If you were raised that having sex before marriage was a sin, if you were raised Catholic like me, just telling you how I was raised as a Catholic, this is an old-time Catholic now, you cannot have sex until you're married. Sex is about procreation, for creating children. That's what it's for. And it's only with a man and a wife. That's it. Any kind of other thing is sin. Now, if you were raised like that and you believe that, and then you start having a relationship, a sexual relationship with someone, and you're not married or engaged or anything like that, then in your mind, you're going against what you believe. So that's why that creates like this. And that's what leads to psychological problems. That happened to me too. Let me tell you some funny things. When I first had an affair with the guy Randy, I was going against what I was raised as. Having sex with someone outside of your marriage is a sin. In fact, it's one of the top 10. Thou shalt not commit adultery on the commandments. This is what I was raised. And if you sin, guess what happens to you? You go burn in eternity, in flames, in hell. So the only way to remedy that is to go to the priest, who probably commits far worse sins than me, and not going there, okay, in this video, and confess your sins and have the priest absolve you of your sins. I'm sorry. Do all this penitence, do all these prayers, go in the confessional box. Well, when I was having an affair with Randy, I felt so guilty because I was raised like this. You're breaking the commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. You are committing one of the worst sins out there, other than murder. Okay. You are going to burn in eternity in hell. So I was like, oh my God, I don't want to spend the rest of my life burning in flames in hell. So I would go, after I was with Randy, to the priest where they live. What is that called? I forget now. It's across the street. It's on the same lot, not across the street. It was across the street from my Catholic school, but It's where the church is, where the priests live, okay? I forget what you call it. Where the priests live, and I would go face to face, because you can have a face to face confessional. And I would sit there and I would confess that, I cheated on my husband, and I would say this face to face, and then he'd tell me, "You're absolved of your sins." He's just an ordinary man, and say these prayers and everything. And I'd go inside the big Catholic church and kneel down and say the prayers. And then guess what I'd do? I'd run back to Randy, have more sex, and then I'd go back to the priest. This is how whacked I was. I figured, if I'm going to commit sin, I'm going to go, okay, do it, have my fun, and then go to the priest and get absolved so I don't go to hell. I don't think it works that way, does it? But anyway, this is what he says. But no matter how much the parents and grandparents may have sinned against the child, the man who is really adult will accept these sins as his own condition, which has to be reckoned with. Only a fool is interested in other people's guilt, since he cannot alter it. The wise man learns from his own guilt. Learning from my own mistakes. Instead of reveling in, like, the mistakes my parents made. Because they're dead now. What good is that going to do me, I have to deal with what I am right now. Okay? All right. In order to understand yourself better, Jung tells you to, number one, analyze your dreams. Dreams are a gateway to know what your unconscious mind has to tell you. I always have the same reoccurring dreams of my old childhood home in flames. What does that mean? I think I'm burning repressed memories, because these nightmares occur for years and years, for decades. It's the same nightmare. Ever since I moved into my new home, and I've lived here for 18 years, I've had these reoccurring nightmares of my old home burning in flames. So I think I'm trying to burn the memories of the past, the ones I've repressed. I think I'm trying to burn them in my unconscious mind, in my nightmares, in my dreams. I'm trying to burn those memories. They can reveal important insights about your personality and your psyche. It would be good to keep a dream journal and take notes. Some of the dreams I do remember, but I don't, I try to forget them. If I talk about them with my husband when I wake up right after the nightmare, then I will retain it. But if I do not talk about it, then I usually forget it. Number 2, reflect on your emotions. For example, if you frequently feel angry or frustrated, this may be a sign that the shadow archetype is prominent in your psyche. And I do get very frustrated and angry. And you should reflect on that and like why that is. Obviously, it's something much deeper. If you're snapping at everyone and you have like a chip on your shoulder, there's something going on inside here that's causing it. Something repressed, okay? Which would help if you analyze your dreams, if you could remember your dreams. Or write them down when you wake up the next morning. Number 3, he says, explore your creative impulses. Yay, the artist in me! Jung believed that creativity was an expression of the unconscious, and that by tapping into our creative energy, all you artists out there, yay! And creative talents, and consider how these activities make you feel. How do you feel when you're painting that painting? What's going on? What does that represent to you? Maybe some repressed things, Look at your artwork. It will tell a lot about you. This is bartender named Darcy, who works, I don't know if she still works there. I haven't been there in years. At the West Roxbury Bertucci's. She was an artist. And she is an artist. I mean, she showed me all her artwork. She has a website. And I even forget her last name now because I haven't been there in years. I was friendly with her. We talked a lot. And she had some pretty, bizarre, like intriguing sketches, drawings. They weren't your normal or average. I mean, they were like, they were really creative. They were not your average type of artwork or drawings or sketches. And you could see a lot of her emotions in them. I mean, they were unbelievable. They were great. I'm saying she was a great artist, but it wasn't your typical artwork or sketching, and she sold them. She went to open studio. She had a lot of them. In fact, she brought in a full book of them, of pictures of them to show people in the restaurant. Oh, what do you think of this? And she had her own little business. You should do that. Get your own little card if you're an artist. They're not that expensive. I think you can get them at the office store or something. Pass along your little card. Yeah, and sell your, if you want to. What a compliment, someone buying your artwork. All right, let's see. Number 4, seek guidance from a therapist or a counselor. A trained therapist or counselor can help you explore your psyche and identify, your personality. But, through dream analysis, you know how I feel about psychologists and therapists. So that's what Jung is telling you. I won't say any more. Just read my books. Read my books. And the last one, number 5, take an online quiz or self-assessment. While online quizzes and self-assessments are not substitute for professional guidance, they can be useful starting point for exploring your personality and your archetypes. I mean, I love taking online quizzes, through Facebook or even in magazines. They have them. They used to have them in magazines, and now everything's on the internet. I love doing those quizzes, but I don't really take them to heart, They're fun, but I don't think I'm going to find out about myself. Some of them on Facebook, they'll say, like, what animal are you? What kind of career should you be into? Or, like, what movie star do you represent? Or what house, would be best to live in? Or, like, what country are you meant to live in? And all, yada, 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 They're fun, but I don't take them serious. I think it takes time, and I'm certainly not the person I was when I was young. I'm a totally opposite. I change radically. I'm a totally different person. But I think I'm coming to find myself in my old age more and more. And more I see that I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a YouTuber. Yay! I'm part of the YouTube partner program. And I love doing psychology. Instead of going to psychologists or becoming a psychologist, I love to talk about psychology with you guys and, share my own personal experiences, This is what I love to do. So I see myself as that, more and more, I'm coming into my own. I'm unorthodox, I'm unconventional. I'm an artist. I'm a poet. I'm a writer, and right now I'm happy. I'm a creator. I love to create. Every day I create something new, and I share it with you, whether it's through my videos or whether it's through my poetry or whether it's through my books. They're really cheap now. I think they're like $10, $15, $10 to $15 price range on my books. In the memoir books, which, are nonfiction, which talk about my life going to therapy, my affairs, my experience with psychologists. It's really interesting reading. I'll drop you the link below. But yeah, I think you get to know yourself more and more through the years, the more you live, and the more that you, are explore. I love to travel, explore. I don't travel well, but I hate to fly, so. But explore yourself. Don't be afraid to try new things, okay? Try new things and find out what you're passionate about, all right? And every day we're learning who we are. It just doesn't stop today. It doesn't stop tomorrow. Maybe, if I live 10 more years, I'll be a different person then. We're always changing. We're always growing. Always evolving. We're always evolving. We're a work of art. We're a work in progress. Every one of us. A work in progress. Don't forget.